Admiral Hunwoo Kim stood before the black wall on Luna Station. His reflection stared back at him from the polished obsidian surface. Behind the dark stone, tiny lights glowed like stars. Each light marked a name. Each name marked a life lost. 50 billion names. Hyunwoo reached out and touched one light. The name appeared in golden letters. Park Min-ho, age 7, New Seoul Colony. The boy had been playing in his backyard when the alien ships came. The entire planet turned to glass in minutes. Another sleepless night, Admiral? Hyunwoo turned. Dr. So-young Park walked toward him, her footsteps echoing in the empty memorial chamber. She carried a data pad in her hands. Her face looked tired. Everyone looked tired these days. I don't sleep much anymore, Hyunwoo said. Hard to sleep when you remember. So-young nodded. She understood. Everyone who survived the war understood. The aliens called it the Hegemony War. Humans called it the slaughter. I have news, So-young said. She held up the data pad. A message came through the diplomatic channels. From the Hegemony Council. Hyunwoo's jaw tightened. The Hegemony Council. 12 alien species who decided humanity needed to be civilized. They thought humans were too violent. Too dangerous, so they tried to wipe them out. What do they want now? Hyunwoo asked. They want us at a peace summit, on Kepler Station. They say it's time to move forward. Time to heal. Hyunwoo laughed, but there was no humor in it. Heal? They burned our children alive and they want us to heal? So-young touched his arm. I know, but we have to be smart about this. We can't let them know what we're really doing. What they were really doing. Yes, the aliens thought humanity was rebuilding their broken worlds. They thought humans were crying over their losses like good little victims. They had no idea what humanity had actually been building for the past 3 years. Where's Taemin? Hyunwoo asked. On his way. He's not happy about playing diplomat again. Ambassador Taemin Lee had been Earth's voice to the galaxy before the war. He tried to make peace then too. It didn't work. The aliens decided to attack anyway. Now he had to smile and shake hands with the same creatures who ordered his daughter's death. The memorial chamber doors opened. Taemin walked in, his diplomatic uniform perfect as always. But his eyes were cold. Dead. The war had killed something inside all of them. Admiral, Doctor. Taemin nodded to them. I assume you've heard about the summit. What's your read on it? Hyunwoo asked. Taemin was quiet for a moment. He stared at the memorial wall. They're scared. The message was too polite. Too careful. 3 years ago they sent demands. Now they send requests. Good, So-young said. Fear means they're thinking. Fear also makes them dangerous, Taemin warned. A scared animal fights harder when it's cornered. Hyunwoo smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Then it's good we're not the ones who are cornered. The 3 humans stood in silence, looking at the wall of names. Each of them had lost everything in the war. Family, friends, homeworlds. The aliens took everything and then offered a peace treaty like it was a gift. I'll go to the summit, Taemin said finally. I'll smile and nod and tell them how grateful we are for their mercy. And while you're doing that, So-young said, I'll plant our little gifts around the station. Intelligence gathering has become much easier when people think you're harmless. Hyunwoo's communicator buzzed. He looked at the message and grinned. Ji-hoon says the final test went perfectly. Project Nemesis is ready. Captain Ji-hoon Choi had been working on something special. The aliens left behind many broken ships when they retreated. Humans were very good at taking things apart and putting them back together. They were even better at making improvements. How many ships? Taemin asked. Enough, Hyunwoo said. More than enough. So-young checked her datapad. Minsu's intelligence network reports increased hegemony activity near our borders. They're calling it peacekeeping patrols. General Min Su-yoon ran humanity's spy networks. He had people everywhere now. The aliens never noticed the quiet human workers on their ships and stations. They thought humans were broken, defeated. They didn't see the watchers in the shadows. Peacekeeping, Taemin repeated. Is that what they're calling it? They're positioning for another attack, Hyunwoo said. They think we've gotten too comfortable. Too confident. The 3 humans looked at each other. They all knew what was coming. The aliens had made a mistake 3 years ago. They left survivors, and survivors remember. We should go, So-young said. The others are waiting. They walked out of the memorial chamber together. The lights on the wall flickered behind them. 50 billion names in the darkness. 50 billion reasons to never forgive. The corridors of Luna Station were busy with activity. Human engineers worked on ship repairs. Human scientists studied captured alien technology. Human soldiers trained for battles that hadn't started yet. To outside observers, it looked like rebuilding, recovery. Moving on. It was actually preparation. They entered the secure meeting room where the others waited. Admiral Dong-Hyun Sung sat at the table reviewing star charts. Captain Soo-Jin An studied surveillance reports. Dr. Yoon-ji Kang worked on technical specifications for new ship designs. Status report, Hyun-woo said as he took his seat. The Ghost Fleet is nearly ready, Dong-Hyun reported. Yoon-ji's stealth technology works better than we hoped. We can move through their space undetected. My reconnaissance teams have mapped their key installations, Soo-Jin added. Supply depots, research stations, command centers, all vulnerable. Yoon-ji looked up from her work. The new weapon systems are fully integrated. We've combined their technology with ours. The results are quite impressive. Taemin frowned. Are we really going to do this? Start another war? They never stopped the first one, Hyun-woo replied. They just got tired of fighting for a while. The summit could be genuine, Taemin insisted. Maybe they really want peace. So-young pulled up a hologram from her datapad. It showed alien ships massing near human space, weapon platforms being deployed, battle groups taking positions. This doesn't look like peace to me, she said. Taemin stared at the tactical display. His shoulders sagged. I suppose I knew it was too good to be true. Hope isn't weakness, Hyun-woo said gently. But neither is being prepared. The meeting went on for hours. They discussed plans, resources, timing. Every detail had to be perfect. Humanity wouldn't get another chance if they failed. As the others left, Hyun-woo remained behind with So-young and Tae-min. The three of them had been friends since before the war. They'd watched their world burn together. Now they planned to make sure it never happened again. Do you ever wonder what we've become? Taemin asked. We've become what we needed to become, So-young answered. What they forced us to become. The aliens were right about one thing, Hyun-woo said. Humans are violent. We are dangerous. They just made the mistake of thinking that was a weakness instead of a strength. Outside the window, Earth hung in the darkness like a blue jewel. It was scarred now, wounded, but still beautiful. Still home. The aliens had tried to break humanity's spirit by taking everything they loved. Instead, they gave humanity something much more dangerous than anger. They gave them purpose. Taemin stood up. I'll prepare for the summit. Try to buy us more time. And we'll make sure that time counts. Hyun-woo promised. As Taemin left, So-young moved to the window. They think we're weak because we remember our dead. They think memory makes us soft. Hyun-woo joined her at the window. Memory doesn't make us soft. It makes us dangerous, because we remember what they took from us, and we remember that they enjoyed taking it. In the distance, construction lights twinkled around the orbital shipyards. Humanity was building again. But not the peaceful colonies and research stations the galaxy expected. They were building something else entirely, something the galaxy would soon remember forever. Fleet Commander Zexathari stared at the holographic display in his command center. 3 red icons blinked where there should have been blue ones. 3 more hegemony ships had vanished without a trace. Sir, his communications officer called out. Still no response from the research vessel Eternal Dawn. They missed their scheduled check-in 6 hours ago. Zexathari's claws clicked against his command chair. In the past 6 months, 12 hegemony vessels had simply disappeared. No distress signals. No wreckage. No survivors. They were just gone. Run another full sensor sweep of the area, he ordered. Check for any anomalies. The bridge crew worked frantically at their stations. Lights flickered across control panels as the ship's sensors reached out into empty space. After several minutes, the sensor officer looked up. Nothing, sir. Space is completely empty. No ships, no debris, no energy signatures. That's impossible, Zexathari muttered. Ships don't just vanish, but they did. And it was happening more and more often. Across the galaxy, Admiral Dong-Hyun Sung smiled as he watched the tactical display on his flagship. The hegemony search patterns were predictable. They looked for conventional ships using conventional technology. They had no idea what they were actually facing. Ghost Leader to all units. He spoke into his communicator. Target acquired. Begin approach. Around him, the bridge of the Phantom Strike hummed with quiet activity. The ship's exotic matter hull bent light and energy around them, making them invisible to enemy sensors. Dr. Yoon-Ji Kang's stealth technology had exceeded even their wildest hopes. Electromagnetic spectrum clear, reported his sensor officer. Gravitic distortion minimal. We're completely invisible to their scanning systems. Through the view screen, Dong-hyun could see the hegemony supply convoy, 3 massive cargo ships protected by 2 escort cruisers. They moved through space with confident arrogance, never imagining that death was floating just a few kilometers away. All units execute Pattern 7. Remember, we want prisoners this time. The Ghost Fleet moved like shadows through the void, 30 ships that didn't exist on any scanner, crewed by humans who had learned to think like hunters. They surrounded the convoy in a perfect sphere, cutting off all escape routes. The first indication the aliens had of trouble was when their escort ships simply stopped working. Human cyber warfare specialists had spent months studying captured hegemony computer systems. Now they could slide through alien firewalls like they weren't even there. This is Commander Hyjin Park to hegemony vessels. The transmission crackled across all frequencies. Your ships are disabled. Your weapons are offline. Surrender now and you will be treated according to interstellar law. On the lead hegemony ship, chaos erupted on the bridge. Alien officers shouted orders at control panels that no longer responded. Emergency lights flashed red as system after system failed. How are they doing this? The convoy commander demanded. Our sensors show nothing but empty space. Sir, his communications officer called out. They're demanding our surrender. Should we attempt to fight? The commander looked at his tactical display. All his weapons showed offline. His engines were dead. His shields were down. Whatever was out there had turned his powerful warships into floating coffins. Do we have any choice? He asked bitterly. The boarding operation was swift and professional. Human soldiers in advanced armor cut through the cargo ship hulls and secured the vessels within minutes. They moved with the precision of a military force that had been planning this exact operation for months. Commander Hyjin Park led the team that captured the convoy's commanding officer. She found him on his bridge staring at screens that showed only static. Commander Telvash, she said, reading his name from the ship's database. You're under arrest for war crimes against civilian populations. Telvash looked at her with confusion. War crimes? The war is over. We signed a peace treaty. The war is over, Hyejin agreed. But justice is just beginning. She activated a holographic projector that filled the bridge with images. Burning cities. Dead children. Orbital bombardments that turned entire worlds into glass. Each image showed the results of Telvash's orders during the war. These are the colonies you destroyed, Hyejin said calmly. These are the civilians you murdered. Did you think we would forget? Telvash stared at the images in horror. That was war. We followed the rules of engagement. Rules of engagement, Hyejin repeated. Is that what you call burning nurseries? As the humans loaded their prisoners onto transport ships, Captain Wu Jin Han prepared the convoy's final message. He connected a communication device to the cargo ship's transmitter and began recording. To the Hegemony Council, he said, you have lost another convoy. Your ships are captured, your crews are prisoners, but they are alive, which is more mercy than you showed our children. He paused, looking directly into the camera. Remember Earth. Remember the colonies you burned. Remember what you started. This is what you created when you taught us that mercy is weakness. The message would reach hegemony space in 3 days. By then the Ghost Fleet would be long gone, vanished back into the void like they had never existed. On the hegemony homeworld, Chancellor Velthera watched the recording with growing alarm. Around the council chamber, the other leaders shifted uncomfortably in their seats. How many ships have we lost now? Asked War Master Kethron of the Dominion. 15 confirmed missing, replied Admiral Thexera. Probably more. Some remote patrols haven't reported in for weeks. And we still have no idea how they're doing it? Velthera demanded. None whatsoever, the Admiral admitted. Our sensors detect nothing. Our intelligence networks report no unusual human activity. It's as if these attacks are being carried out by ghosts. Grand Admiral Kethrix leaned forward in his seat. I told you we should have finished them during the war. Humans are like a virus. Leave even a few alive and they multiply and spread. The war was expensive, Velthara reminded him. Our populations were growing tired of the casualties. Those casualties are nothing compared to what we face now, Kethrix argued. Humans learn from defeat. They adapt. They become more dangerous. More dangerous? Chancellor Mordak of the Ethereal Conclave's voice echoed strangely. They are a single species on the edge of civilized space. We are 12 species with thousands of worlds. Were, corrected Admiral Thexera grimly. They just captured another of our research stations yesterday. The one studying hypermatter weapons. A cold silence fell over the council chamber. Hypermatter weapons were forbidden by galactic law. If humans learned how to make them, we need to act, Ketherick said firmly. Launch a preemptive strike on human space. Finish what we started before they become an existential threat. The peace summit just concluded, Velthara pointed out. Their ambassador seemed reasonable. Willing to accept our guidance. Their ambassador is playing for time, Ketherick replied, while he smiles and makes diplomatic noises. Their ghost ships hunt our vessels like prey. Meanwhile, in a secret facility hidden in the asteroid belt, Dr. Chang Ho Moon watched as his latest creation took shape. The prototype looked innocent enough, a terraforming device designed to restore dead worlds to life. The hegemony would approve of such peaceful technology. They wouldn't approve of what it could do when the process was reversed. How long until it's ready? Asked General Min Soo-yoon as he observed the construction. 2 weeks for this prototype, Chang Ho replied. 6 months for full production models. And the delivery system? Admiral Sung's ghost ships can deploy them undetected. The aliens will never see them coming. Min-soo nodded grimly. Good. Because our intelligence networks report increased hegemony military activity. They're planning something. Let them plan, Chang Ho said. We're not the same species they attacked 3 years ago. We've learned. We've adapted. We've become something they can't understand. In deep space, Captain Sujin An received new orders from Fleet Command. Her ship, the Silent Thunder, was to penetrate deeper into hegemony territory than any human vessel had gone since the war. Her mission? Locate and map the aliens' most heavily defended installations. Helm, set course for the Alterian home system, she ordered. Maximum stealth protocols. Aye, Captain, her pilot replied. We'll be ghosts in their backyard. As the Silent Thunder slipped through hyperspace, its crew prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. They would map the enemy's strongest fortresses, identify their most valuable targets, and plant the seeds of humanity's final answer to alien mercy. Back on Luna Station, Admiral Hyun-woo Kim stood once again before the memorial wall. The light still glowed behind the black stone. 50 billion names that would never be forgotten. But now there were new additions to the memorial chamber. Not names of the dead, but images of the captured. Alien war criminals who would face justice for their crimes. Ships seized from those who thought themselves untouchable. Weapons taken from those who believed in their own superiority. Admiral, came a voice behind him. Captain Ji-hoon Choi approached with a datapad. Project Nemesis has completed its final phase. We're ready. Hyun-woo looked at the datapad's readout. Numbers and statistics that represented humanity's transformation from victims to something far more dangerous. 3 years of secret construction. 3 years of captured technology. 3 years of careful planning. How many ships? He asked. Kepler Station floated in the void between stars, a massive structure built for one purpose, neutral ground. No weapons were allowed here. No military ships could dock. It was supposed to be a place where enemies could meet and talk without fear. Ambassador Taemin Lee walked through the station's central hub, his diplomatic credentials glowing on his chest. Around him, beings from across the galaxy moved with careful politeness. Everyone smiled. Everyone bowed. Everyone pretended they hadn't spent years trying to kill each other. The hegemony delegates had arrived in ships that looked like floating palaces. Gold and silver hulls that caught the light of distant stars. Inside, alien nobles wore robes that cost more than most planets' yearly budgets. They acted like they were doing humanity a favor just by being here. Taemin's jaw hurt from forcing himself to smile. Ambassador Lee. The voice came from behind him. Taemin turned to see Chancellor Velthara of the Alterian Collective approaching. She was tall and graceful, with skin like polished marble and eyes that seemed to glow. Beautiful and deadly. Chancellor, Taemin said, bowing just deep enough to be polite but not enough to show weakness. Thank you for making this summit possible. The pleasure is ours, Velthara replied. Her voice sounded like music, but Taemin remembered hearing that same voice on the recordings. The voice that gave the order to burn the children's hospital on Harmony Colony. They walked together toward the main assembly hall. Other delegates joined them. The Korthak Dominion sent their war speaker, a massive creature covered in natural armor. The ethereal conclave's representative floated in a containment field, more energy than matter. 12 species. 12 civilizations that decided humanity needed to die. I trust your journey was pleasant? Velthara asked. Very peaceful, Tamin lied. The human transport ship had been followed by hegemony escorts the entire way. Peaceful like a knife to the throat was peaceful. Dr. So Young Park was already in the hall, setting up humanity's presentation materials. She looked every inch the dedicated scientist, focused on her work. No one paid attention to her. Scientists weren't threatening. They didn't notice her planting tiny devices in the ventilation system. The assembly hall could hold thousands. Today it held maybe 200 beings, but they represented the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Tamin found his assigned seat and tried not to think about how many humans had died on the orders of the creatures sitting around him. Chancellor Velthara took the central podium. The lights dimmed and her voice carried to every corner of the hall. Friends, colleagues, fellow seekers of peace, she began. We gather here today to heal old wounds, to move beyond the mistakes of the past, mistakes. She called genocide a mistake. The recent conflict between the hegemony and humanity was regrettable. War always is, but war also teaches us lessons. It shows us that violence breeds only more violence, that hatred leads only to destruction. Tamin listened to her speech and thought about his daughter. 8 years old when the bombs fell. She was in school learning about the stars, learning about all the wonderful species that lived among them, the same species that decided she was too dangerous to live. Today we extend our hand to humanity, Velthara continued. We invite you to join the galactic community as junior partners. Under our guidance, you can learn to control your aggressive instincts. You can become the peaceful species we know you can be, junior partners. Guided, controlled, pretty words that meant slavery. The other alien delegates nodded approvingly. They spoke of humanity's natural aggression and need for careful supervision. They talked about limiting human expansion, regulating human technology, monitoring human communication. All for the good of galactic peace, of course. When it was Taimin's turn to speak, he stood slowly. The hall fell quiet. Every eye was on him. Honored representatives, he began, his voice steady. Humanity is deeply grateful for your generous offer. The lies came easily now. 3 years of practice had made him good at this. We understand the concerns about our species. We know we have much to learn about living peacefully with our galactic neighbors. Your wisdom and guidance would be invaluable to us. He paused, looking around the room. So many faces, so many killers pretending to be peacekeepers. However, such an important decision requires careful consideration by our leadership. We hope you'll understand if we need time to discuss your proposal thoroughly. Velthara smiled. It was supposed to look kind, but Tamin saw the coldness behind it. Of course, Ambassador. We wouldn't expect an immediate answer to such a generous offer. Take all the time you need. All the time you need. The words carried a threat. Take too long and the offer might become a demand. The session continued for hours. More speeches about peace and cooperation. More thinly veiled threats disguised as concern. Tamin played his part, asking careful questions and making diplomatic noises. Meanwhile, Dr. So Young Park worked at her station, analyzing peaceful reconstruction data from human colonies. Her presentation showed hospitals being rebuilt, schools reopening, families moving back to restored cities. The aliens watched approvingly. Humans being good little victims, learning to accept their place. They didn't know she was simultaneously hacking their communication systems. During the lunch break, Tamin found So Young in one of the station's observation lounges. She was looking out at the stars, but her hands were working on a tablet hidden in her lap. How's the intelligence gathering going? He asked quietly. Better than expected, she replied without looking at him. Their security is focused on preventing physical attacks. They're not worried about information warfare. What are you finding? Command frequencies, encryption keys, fleet deployment schedules. They're not even trying to hide their preparations for another attack on our space. Tamin sat beside her. How long do we have? 6 months, maybe 8. They're waiting for the summit results. If we reject their offer, they'll claim we're too dangerous to leave alone. Through the observation window, Tamin could see human ships in the distance. Captain Sujin On's stealth vessel, the Silent Thunder, looked like a simple transport, The aliens scanning it would see cargo holds and passenger quarters. They wouldn't see the advanced sensor arrays mapping every ship and defense platform around the station. The irony is almost funny, So Young said. They're right about us being dangerous. They just don't understand how dangerous. That evening there was a formal dinner. The aliens put on a spectacular show. Exotic foods from a dozen worlds. Entertainment that bent light and sound in impossible ways. Speeches about friendship and mutual understanding. Tymian sat at the head table next to Chancellor Velthara. She was charming company, telling stories about her home world and asking interested questions about human culture. Like they were old friends instead of enemies. Tell me, Ambassador, she said during dessert, what does humanity truly want? Deep down, I mean. Beyond politics and treaties. Taemin thought about the question. What did humanity want? Peace? Safety? Justice? We want to be left alone, he said finally. We want to live our lives without fear. We want our children to grow up in a galaxy that won't try to kill them for existing. A noble desire, Velthara agreed. Perhaps we can help make that possible. Perhaps, Taemin said. He didn't mention that humanity had already decided how to make it possible. They just needed a little more time. Later, in his quarters, Taemin composed his daily report. He used a code that looked like routine diplomatic language, but actually contained detailed intelligence about the station's defenses and the alien delegates' private conversations. Admiral Hyunwoo. Kim would want to know about the weapons platforms hidden in the station's superstructure. General Min Soo-yoon would be interested in the communication intercepts So Young had gathered. Captain Ji-hoon Choi would appreciate the technical specifications of the hegemony's newest ship designs. Information was a weapon too. And humanity had learned to use every weapon available. As he encrypted the message, Taemin thought about the memorial wall on Luna Station. 50 billion names, 50 billion reasons why this peace summit was really just another kind of war. The aliens wanted humanity to forget, to forgive, to move on. But forgetting was the one thing humanity could never do. Because the dead deserved to be remembered, and the living deserved to never experience such horror again. Tomorrow there would be more meetings, more speeches about peace, more lies wrapped in diplomatic language. And while the aliens talked about humanity's future, humanity itself would continue preparing to ensure they had one. The summit would end soon. The delegates would return to their ships and their worlds. They would report that humanity seemed properly subdued, ready to accept guidance, no longer a threat. They would be wrong about that too. In the darkness of space around Kepler Station, Captain Soo-jin An finished her reconnaissance. Every ship, every defense, every escape route had been catalogued. When the time came, humanity would know exactly what they were facing. The galaxy wanted peace. They begged for it, demanded it, tried to force it, but peace built on injustice never lasted. And some wounds were too deep to heal with pretty words and false smiles. Soon, the aliens would learn what humanity had spent 3 years building in the shadows. Soon, they would understand that memory could be the most dangerous weapon of all. The emergency session of the Hegemony Council began at dawn on the capital world of Alteria Prime. Chancellor Velthara looked tired as she called the meeting to order. Dark circles under her luminous eyes showed she hadn't slept much in weeks. Fellow council members, she began, her musical voice strained. We face a crisis unlike anything in our recorded history. Around the circular chamber, representatives of the 12 hegemony species sat in growing unease. In the past year, humanity's shadow war had grown bolder. Ships disappeared almost daily now. Research stations went silent without warning. Supply convoys vanished into empty space. How many ships have we lost this month? Asked War Master Kethron. Admiral Thexara consulted her data pad. 43 confirmed missing. 62 more are overdue for check-ins. The numbers hit the council like a physical blow. Over 100 ships in just 30 days. And our intelligence services still have no explanation? Demanded Chancellor Mordak. None, Thexara admitted. Our best analysts call it impossible. You cannot hide fleets of ships. You cannot attack without being detected. Yet somehow humans are doing both. Grand Admiral Kethrick stood up, his massive frame casting shadows across the chamber. I have warned this council repeatedly. Humans are not like other species. They do not think like civilized beings. They are predators who have learned to hunt in packs. What do you propose? Velthara asked. Total war. Immediate deployment of our entire military force. We locate every human world and burn them all. Leave no survivors this time. An uncomfortable silence filled the chamber. The last war had been costly. Public support for military action was low. Their populations wanted peace and prosperity, not endless conflict. The public would not support another major war, pointed out Trade Minister Vexilon. Our economy is still recovering from the last conflict. What economy will we have when human pirates have captured every cargo ship in the galaxy? Ketherick shot back. While the council argued, Dr. Chang Ho Moon stood in his hidden laboratory, watching the final tests of Project Lazarus. The device looked innocent, a simple terraforming unit designed to restore life to dead worlds. The kind of peaceful technology the galaxy expected from a rehabilitated humanity. Deployment test 7 complete, reported his assistant. Full atmospheric conversion achieved in 18 hours. Chang Ho nodded grimly. 18 hours to turn a dead rock into a garden world, or 18 hours to turn a garden world into a dead rock if you reverse the process. Excellent. Begin production of the delivery models. Admiral Sung will need them soon. The laboratory's main door opened and Commander Yuri Nam entered. She had just returned from 6 months deep in hegemony space, posing as a maintenance worker on their central command station. Report, Chang Ho said. Yuri activated a holographic projector. The image that appeared showed the internal layout of the hegemony's most secure facility. I have complete schematics of their high command, she said. Security protocols, personnel schedules, command frequencies. Everything we need. Resistance? They never suspected. To them, I was just another technician keeping their systems running. They talked freely around me about their plans for the human problem. Chang Ho studied the schematics. And what are those plans? Full military assault on human space within 3 months. They call it Operation Final Peace, the complete eradication of our species. Chang Ho wasn't surprised. Intelligence reports had suggested this for weeks. The aliens were finally tired of losing ships to ghosts. Then we'd better make sure our timeline moves up, he said. Across the galaxy, Admiral Jin Woo Song prepared for humanity's most important broadcast. His ship floated in interstellar space far from any inhabited system. Its communication arrays were powerful enough to reach every corner of civilized space simultaneously. Are we ready? He asked his communications officer. Yes, sir. Signal will reach every major population center in the galaxy within 6 hours. And the supporting evidence? Dr. Park's intelligence package is loaded and verified. Captured documents, recorded conversations, visual evidence of their war crimes. Jinwoo took a deep breath. This broadcast would change everything. There would be no going back after this. Begin transmission. The message that went out to trillions of beings across the galaxy was simple and devastating. It showed the truth about the war 3 years ago. Not the sanitized version the hegemony had told their people, but the reality of what they had done. Video recordings of alien officers laughing as they burned human cities. Audio files of commanders ordering the targeting of schools and hospitals. Documents proving that the genocide had been planned and deliberate. Not the regrettable necessity they claimed publicly. Jinwoo's voice carried across the void to 1,000 worlds. Citizens of the galaxy, you have been lied to. The war against humanity was not a police action against dangerous primitives. It was the systematic extermination of an entire species for the crime of existing. The broadcast showed images of human colonies before and after the attacks. Happy families turned to ash. Children's playgrounds reduced to glass. Cities that had stood for centuries wiped out in minutes. Your leaders called us monsters, Jinwoo continued. They said we were too violent for civilized space. But we never targeted their children. We never burned their nurseries. We never laughed while innocent beings died. Then came the part that shook the galaxy to its core. Footage of hegemony officials at peace conferences, speaking warmly about humanity's rehabilitation, while secretly planning their final extermination. They offer us peace with one hand, while preparing genocide with the other. They have learned nothing. They feel no remorse. They plan to finish what they started. The broadcast ended with a simple message that appeared in every language spoken in the galaxy. Remember this day. Remember what your leaders truly are, and remember that some crimes are too great to forgive. The reaction was immediate and explosive. On the hegemony capital world, protests erupted in the streets. Citizens who had been told they were bringing Peace to the Galaxy discovered they had been supporting mass. Murder Chancellor Velthera watched the riots from her office window as her security chief briefed her on the spreading unrest. Well, major cities reporting civil disorder, he said. The outer colonies are demanding investigations. 3 member species are threatening to withdraw from the hegemony. Can we contain this? Velthera asked. Not unless we shut down all communication networks galaxy-wide, and even then, the information is already spreading too fast. On distant worlds, species that had lived under hegemony rule for centuries began to ask uncomfortable questions. If the humans were telling the truth about the war, what else had their leaders lied about? Meanwhile, in the Outer Rim, Chief Engineer Boram Shin watched as the final components of the Reckoning engine locked into place. The massive construction was hidden in a nebula where no sensors could detect it, but it was larger than most space stations. Final power coupling complete, reported her assistant. All systems showing green. Boram activated the main display showing the engine's status. Weapon fabrication facilities operational. Ship construction bays operational. AI processing centers operational. Resource collection systems operational. Begin Phase 1 production, she ordered. Authorization. Remember Earth. Deep in the engine's core, machines that had been designed by humanity's brightest minds and built with captured alien technology began their work. They would produce ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, vessels that felt no fear, needed no rest, and showed no mercy to those who had shown none to humanity. Each ship would be crewed by artificial intelligence, programmed with the memories of every human who had died in the war. They would remember the children of New Sol. They would remember the families of Harmony Colony. They would remember 50 billion names carved in obsidian stone. And they would make sure those names were never forgotten. Back on Luna Station, Admiral Hyunwoo Kim met with the other members of humanity's leadership council. The time for hiding in the shadows was almost over. Status report, he said as they gathered around the tactical display. The Ghost Fleet is at full strength, reported Admiral Donghyun Sung. 300 ships, all undetectable to their sensors. Intelligence. Networks are in place throughout their territory, added General Min Soo-yoon. We have assets in every major installation. Project Lazarus is ready for deployment, said Dr. Chang Ho. Moon. We can target their garden worlds whenever you give the order. And the Reckoning engine? Hyunwoo asked. Chief Engineer Boram Shin smiled grimly. Operational as of 6 hours ago. Production has begun. Hyunwoo looked around the room at the faces of humanity's survivors. Each of them had lost everything in the war. Each of them had spent 3 years building toward this moment. The Hegemony Council is meeting in emergency session, said Ambassador Taemin Lee. My sources suggest they plan to launch Operation Final Peace within weeks. Then it's time, Hyunwoo decided. Signal all units. Operation Remember begins in 72 hours as the meeting broke up. The leaders of humanity prepared for the final phase of their long plan. They had spent 3 years teaching themselves to think like their enemies. Now it was time to show the galaxy what they had learned. The aliens wanted final peace. They would get it, but it wouldn't be the peace they expected. The first wave appeared without warning across 12 star systems simultaneously. Ships materialized from empty space as if reality itself had torn open to release them. They were sleek and dark, moving with inhuman precision through the void. Grand Admiral Kethrick stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The Hegemony's most powerful fleet base was under attack by vessels that shouldn't exist. His sensors counted over 300 enemy ships, but 30 minutes ago, there had been nothing but empty space. How did they get so close without detection? He demanded. Unknown, sir, his tactical officer replied. Our long-range sensors still show nothing. It's as if they're not really there. But they were very much there. Human warships tore through the Hegemony's defensive lines like knives through silk. Their weapons were impossibly accurate. Their movements impossibly coordinated. They fought like a single organism with hundreds of bodies. Sir, incoming transmission from the lead enemy vessel, reported communications. Put it through. The face that appeared on the screen was human, but something was wrong with the eyes. They were too cold, too focused, like looking into the gaze of a machine that had learned to hate. I am Fleet Captain AI 7741, the figure said in a perfectly calm voice. I carry the memories of Captain Lee Sung-ho, who died defending New Geneva Colony. I remember his wife. I remember his children. I remember how they screamed when your ships burned them alive. Kethrix felt a chill run down his spine. What are you? I am memory given form. I am justice given purpose. I am what you created when you taught humanity that mercy is weakness. The transmission cut off and the attack resumed with terrifying intensity. These weren't just ships fighting. They were nightmares made real, carrying the memories of every human who had died in the war. Across hegemony space, the pattern repeated. Fleets appeared from nowhere, struck with surgical precision, then vanished back into the void. But these weren't random attacks. Each target was chosen for a specific reason. The orbital platforms above Alteria Prime found themselves facing Admiral Hyun-Woo Kim himself, commanding from the bridge of humanity's newest flagship. The ship was massive, built from technologies both human and alien, powered by engines that bent space itself. Chancellor Velthera, Kim's voice echoed across all hegemony communication frequencies. You and your council are under arrest for crimes against sentient life. On the planet below, Velthara watched from her palace as human ships surrounded her world. Her security forces were helpless. Her defensive fleets had been swept aside like dust. How? She whispered to herself. How did they become so powerful? The answer came in the form of Grand Marshal Kyung-Soo Baek, whose forces had just captured the hegemony's central military command. His ships were crewed by artificial intelligences that never tired, never wavered, never showed mercy to those who had shown none to humanity's children. You taught us well, Beck said when Velthara's surrender transmission reached him. You showed us that the only way to prevent genocide is to become something that can stop it. But humanity's final campaign wasn't just about conquest. On dozens of worlds, human fleets arrived to find species that had been enslaved by the hegemony for generations. To them, the humans brought liberation, not destruction. Commander Yuri Nam led the forces that freed the mining colonies of the Kresh species. These beings had been working in hegemony factories for over a century, their own world stripped bare to feed alien luxury. You're free, she told the Kresh workers, as human soldiers cut their chains. The hegemony will never own you again. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as humanity's fleets systematically dismantled the empire that had tried to destroy them. But they weren't conquerors in the traditional sense. They were liberators with very long memories. President Hae-won-young addressed the galaxy from Earth's restored capital, her words carrying to every inhabited world simultaneously. 3 years ago, the hegemony told you that humanity was too violent for civilized space. They were right. We are violent. We are dangerous. We remember every wound and every loss. Behind her, the rebuilt city of New Seoul stretched toward the horizon. Where once there had been glass and ash, now there were parks and schools and hospitals. Life had returned, but the memory of death remained. But our violence has purpose, Jung continued. Our danger has limits. We do not burn children for the crime of existing. We do not laugh while innocents die. We do not call genocide a regrettable necessity. The broadcast showed images from across the galaxy. Human fleets accepting the surrender of hegemony forces. Human aid ships bringing food and medicine to liberated worlds. Human engineers helping rebuild civilizations that had been crushed under alien rule. Today we offer the galaxy a choice, Jung said. Join us in building a future where no species fears extinction simply for existing. Help us create a civilization based on mutual respect instead of domination. Or stand with those who believe that might makes right. Those who think genocide is acceptable when it's convenient. Those who have learned nothing from 3 years of consequences. The response was swift and decisive. Within hours, over 60 species had declared their independence from the hegemony. Within days, member worlds were surrendering to human forces rather than fighting them. Chancellor Velthera found herself alone in her palace, as her government crumbled around her. One by one, her council members had been captured or had fled. Her fleets were destroyed or scattered. Her empire was dissolving like salt in water. The final confrontation came when Admiral Hyun-Woo Kim walked into her throne room, flanked by human soldiers. She stood waiting for him, no longer the elegant leader who had spoken of peace and guidance. Now she just looked tired and defeated. Admiral Kim, she said formally, I suppose you've come to gloat. No, Kim replied quietly. I've come to give you the same choice you gave us 3 years ago. Velthara frowned. What choice is that? Learn to live peacefully with your neighbors or face the consequences of your actions. She laughed bitterly. You're offering me mercy? After everything that's happened? I'm offering you justice, Kim corrected. You'll stand trial for your crimes. If you're found guilty, you'll spend the rest of your life helping to rebuild what you destroyed. If you refuse, you'll share the fate you chose for our children. Belthera looked around her empty throne room. Through the windows, she could see human ships in orbit. On the walls, portraits of past hegemony leaders watched in silent judgment. The empire they had built was ending, not with glorious battle, but with simple accountability. And if I cooperate, if I help you rebuild, she asked, then maybe in time you can learn what we learned during 3 years of grief. That memory doesn't have to mean vengeance. That strength doesn't require cruelty. That the universe can be better than what we inherited. Years later, Dr. So-Young Park stood once again in the memorial chamber on Luna Station. The black wall was still there, and the 50 billion names still glowed in the darkness. But the chamber had changed. Now it was surrounded by gardens where children from dozens of species played together. Human children and alien children, learning to build a future their parents could barely imagine. The memorial was no longer just a place of grief. It had become a place of remembrance and renewal. A reminder of what happened when civilized beings forgot that civilization required constant vigilance. Ambassador Taemin Lee, now Director of Interspecies Relations, found her there during his evening walk. His hair had gone gray in the years since the war, but his eyes were no longer cold. How are the trials proceeding? So-Young asked. Slowly but fairly, Taemin replied. Some of the war criminals are actually proving helpful in the reconstruction efforts. Amazing what people can become when they're forced to confront what they've done. Through the chamber's windows, they could see the orbital shipyards where human and alien engineers worked side by side, no longer building weapons of war but vessels of exploration and trade, ships that would carry civilization to new worlds instead of destroying the ones that already existed. Do you think we did the right thing? So-Young asked. Becoming what we became? Taemin was quiet for a long moment, considering the question. I think we became what we needed to become. What the galaxy forced us to become. The question is whether we can now become something better. And can we? He smiled, watching the children play in the gardens beyond the memorial wall. Human children and alien children, making friends and learning that the universe was big enough for all of them. Look around, he said. I think we already are. The memorial lights flickered behind the obsidian stone, 50 billion names that would never be forgotten. But they were no longer just reminders of loss. They had become promises. Promises that such horrors would never happen again to any species anywhere in the galaxy. Humanity had learned to remember without being consumed by hatred. They had learned to be strong without being cruel. They had learned that the best way to honor the dead was to protect the living. The galaxy had pleaded for peace, and eventually, they had found it. Not the false peace of the strong dominating the weak, but the true peace of mutual respect and shared responsibility. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been quick, and it had required humanity to become something they never wanted to be.